You're watching The Whole Living Show on Trajectory TV.
5 years ago, the Power of We Symposium was created to provide a platform for kids from all sectors where they could have a safe and comfortable environment in which to share both their joys and concerns. The Power of We Symposium is proud to have served over 250 kids throughout Romania when we took our mission global back in May of 2023. Now, 2 teams of amazing volunteers from both the U.S. and Romania embarked on an 8-day Legacy of Hope tour, bringing encouragement and hope to not only the kids of Romania, but also the adults who support them, and also to over 100 kids here in the U.S. who contributed handwritten letters of hope to our Romania mission of 2023. Now, this year, we are proud to provide this opportunity yet again in October, and we are super excited to up our game. New venue, 750 kids this time, and we want to see you there. We're looking forward to meeting you in person at this year's event, which promises, as always, incredible speakers, amazing content, and of course, some of the greatest kids on the planet. So, mark your calendars for October 24th, and we'll see you here in Chicagoland for the Power of We Symposium 2024. This year's theme is Always Together, Never Alone. Tickets are available now on Eventbrite or at powerofwesymposium.com.
Hey, boom, ba, ba, bow. Okay, I get excited when I hear my show opener, but everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Whole Living Show. It is a wonderful Wednesday, hump day, and I have got a special show with some very special guests waiting here this evening. We are talking about, I'm going to show you my shirt, love tonight. We're talking about love, so I can't wait to get into this conversation. I have 4 of my love sisters waiting backstage. And you know, we're going to have some fun as we talk about love. But before we do, get ready, hold on to your seats. Try to share this with you last week. So I know you've heard a little bit about it last week if you caught the show last week, but this is something that we have to continue to talk about. And if you love yourself, listen and pay attention to this. So I'm going to share my screen. And we are going to take a look at this video. Give me one moment, everybody out there. But I really want you to understand, you know, what is happening in the world. And I want you to love yourself and pay attention to what you are consuming. So I'm going to put this video up here. And let me see if I can just share my screen really quickly here. All right. And this may be a little unorthodox in the way that I'm sharing, but I'm sharing anyway because it needs to be shared. So I'm going to add this to the stage here. Click on this baby. And can you guys hear that? Oh, sound is not on. That would help, right? Here we go.
The team isolated and combined these proteins with a reaction enhancer. Result, synthetic steak. The meat comprises of 63% protein, 25% carbs, 3% lipids, and 9% minerals. And it's visually enhanced with food coloring for a red hue and improved flavor using soy protein. They just made meat from your number 2. Japanese scientists have developed a method to create edible steaks from human feces. Unbelievable? Well, it's happening. Mitsuyuki Aikida, a researcher at the Okayama laboratory, collaborated with Tokyo Sewage to address sewage mud excess. They discovered the content in the mud contains high protein due to bacteria. So, the team isolated and combined these proteins with a reaction enhancer. Result, synthetic steak. The meat comprises of 63% protein, 25% carbs, 3% lipids, and 9% minerals. And it's visually enhanced with food coloring for a red hue and improved flavor using soy protein. They just made...
Okay, you guys, listen. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And you know I'm going to bring in the ladies to see what they think about this, but so we're talking about love today. I'm going to mention loving yourself first. And I said this last week, and beautiful Carrie Irene Crosby was here last week, and we had a whole conversation about this. But I feel like I need to continue to share these things with you. And because I didn't give you a visual last week, I had to share it again this week. What do you think about this? I mean, this is something that your body is deciding to release, right? Not only is it something that your body is releasing, they are taking what millions of people are releasing and extracting proteins from bacteria that millions of people are releasing and making it into steak and adding food coloring in it. So I don't even want to have this conversation by myself. It's very disturbing. I am going to bring in the beautiful ladies. We're here to talk about love. So we're going to start off with loving yourself because of this video. I have the beautiful Carrie Irene Crosby. Hello, hello. And Carrie, I know we talked about this last week.
Look, I can't wait to hear what they're going to say.
I know. Wait. We have Brandy the Disconnector. Hello. And look at her face. We have Sheba, she talks, and she's already shaking her head no. Hello. And we have Dr. Antoinette Marie Williams. Hello. And she's still smiling, thank God.
I got a lot to say about that.
Hello. Listen, I'm just gonna get right into it. What do you all think about that?
I don't want.
That's what I think about that.
I don't want to think about it. Listen, my sister has this saying. She says, "I know you lying." So that's what I'm gonna say. I know you lying.
Exactly. And when you think about this just came up for me tonight when I'm thinking about love, and I'm like, well, we need to love ourselves first, right? And people talk about that when it comes to self-care, but we really need to pay attention to what we're putting in our bodies, what we are consuming, not just the food, but because this is something that they're giving us as food, this pseudo steak. We need to think about what we're consuming and where it's coming from. Like, pay attention, people, because there's a lot that's coming out now that has nothing to do with actual real food that's coming from real plants, real herbs, real animals, right? Mm-hmm. So I want everybody out there to really pay attention. Look at the information, do some research, right? But pay attention to what is coming into our local stores. Now, this doesn't say anything about this being in the stores yet. It's something that they're researching, but they've gotten as far as, showing you how they're cooking it and seasoning it and coloring it in order for it to look like steak.
It's not, it's shit.
Yeah, it's shit steak. It is shit steak.
And you're always going to have those people who are going to say, this is why they put it out early, and they give you little tidbits. Oh, I'll try that. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying that.
Mm-mm.
No,
I don't want that.
No.
I make my own, and I don't want it. It's just me coming out of my body, and I know what's in it.
Exactly.
This makes sense to me, Tracy, when we're talking about love, that this is a boundary, because even for self-love enables for you to have boundaries, and that's going to be an everlasting no.
Yes.
Perfect.
Resounding no, and no. Yeah. And for me, it makes no sense. Like, I call this a mad scientist move right here, right? Because what even made the scientists think about doing something like this as they are examining how to manage waste in their country? Like, why? Like, why would you ever think that something that your body is removing, that it needs to take it back in?
I know that's right. Exit only, baby.
They want, I want to push the limits. People want to push the limits and push the boundaries so badly to create the next best thing or the next greatest thing. But does that fall into that category? Do we have to add that to? Does everything need to be in that category?
No. And Carrie and I talked about this last week, where when they were mentioning the lab chicken, they talked about how they are looking to meet the demands of the food supply, right? And that there's not enough food for the people that are on this earth, on this planet, right? So they're looking to meet the demands of the food supply. So they're making things like lab chicken and now shit steak. And they haven't said this in regards to the shit steak. So I just want to put that out there. They said that when it came to the lab chicken, but I can only imagine that they're going to use that excuse when it comes to this shit steak. And y'all keep saying it that way.
Every time you say it, I just can't. I can't. My brain is like shit steak.
Right. So what do you think about that? About, them wanting to, or mentioning that they need to manage the demand for food for the population that is on the globe, right? Because this was in Japan, not in the United States at the moment, but they're looking to manage the food supply to be able to feed the masses.
Well, I think the first thing, if you are looking for something to manage the food supply, the first thing you need to start with is food.
Ding, ding, ding.
We off to a bad start already.
Right. Brady's like, yeah, that's an idea.
That's an idea, right?
Yeah. That would be good. And we talked about that part last week too. Like, why not, treat the soil, make the soil better so that we can farm again and, have real food. Like, why not think about ways to really provide real nutrition?
Yeah.
And look at both sides of it. Why? Oh, sorry, I'm cutting you off.
No, you go ahead.
We're and I can say this, because I have my own health issues. We're an obese country. We're an obese world. Why not focus on less consumption? Why aren't we eating less? Why do we have to mass produce and false produce all of these things to accommodate this insatiated need to eat more?
Yeah, quality over quantity.
And when you think about it, right, and I love that you said that, if we did do that, I think the appetite would change, right? Because naturally, I'm saying this because I have changed the way I eat, right? 11 years ago. And my appetite for things changed when I started eating the right things, right? It doesn't mean that maybe it doesn't get rid of it completely, but it's about what you put in your body. And if you say one day I'm going to eat sugar, then you're going to start to crave more things with sugar or some of the bad food, the salt, right? But if you stop eating it, your body stops needing it. It stops wanting it, so you start to reduce the desire for it. So if you put the good food out there that people could buy and afford, right? Because that's another part of it. The good food, the real food costs more money than, those things that are processed. Yeah. So I want you all out there to love yourself first.
But don't eat that.
I was gonna say.
That is not that is not
the way to make it.
for you.
Right.
It is not an aphrodisiac. Don't get misconstrued over all the propaganda when it happens. Watch.
Exactly.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Right. And no matter how much they tell you it's good for you, right? Because they tried to dress it up with, it's high in protein, right? So no matter how they dress it up.
So it's quinoa.
Right.
That's right.
Peanut butter.
So
name a few things.
Right. So since we're on this topic and talking about loving yourself, I want to hear from all of you ladies in regards to loving yourself first. What's the first thoughts that come to you when you think about loving yourself first?
I think it changes for me, like in certain phases in my life. Like right now, I am loving the healthier me, which means, I guess that's why I made the comment. I want healthier things in my body. I want less weight. I want beautiful, glowing skin. I have to do that every time because I'm like, that chocolate is pretty. But I want those things. So that's where my mind is. So loving me right now is making sure that those things really nurture my body and my health, and then feeling the benefits of it, the more energy, the less lethargicness, if that's a word, of eating better and sleeping and things like that.
Yeah.
So it changes. I'm in that phase right now.
Yeah. And I want to ask you, because you talked about nurturing your body, right? And nourishing your body, I would say. But I want to ask all of you, as you think about this question too, nourishing your body, yes, right? Because that's so important. But I always think about everything threefold when it comes to health. So what do you think about when you talk about self-love, nourishing your mind, nourishing your body, nourishing your spirit?
It go hand in hand.
I like balance. Balance helps me experience self-love on the highest levels possible. So balancing my finances, my sleep, that bullshit meter. I acknowledge and set strong boundaries. There's some I've recently established all over again. People are pissed off, but they be all right. Making sure I make time for Hubs because he's got 1,037 things going on at all times, and his peace is the peace that I established within our own home. So when he's calm, happy, cool, and collected, I'm very happy myself. So the food. I'm also focusing on what I've been eating, staying away from fried foods, limiting my sugar intake, and I'm realizing that I really like spicy foods. So Tracy, you'll love this. I found kombucha that I like that has cayenne pepper and ginger in it.
Oh, nice. Very nice. And both are very healthy. So amen. You get your spice and you can release the release.
You can make your own steak.
Sandwich.
So what about Carrie and Dr. Antoinette Marie?
Well, for me, I think getting back to what originally always made me happy, and that's just having a good time. I've noticed that through a lot of relationships, through a lot of job positions, through a lot of responsibilities, through a lot of movement, through a lot of decisions having to be made, I got away from laughing. I got away from just having a good time and not being the villain in my life. I look at every single area of my life and I have to make sure I am not the villain. I'm not the one that's, we talk about a lot, especially in the entrepreneur space, how, I'm harder on myself than anybody. I'm my biggest critic. Should you be that? Only in a way that you're being brutally honest with yourself and that you're being very aware of where you are and where you're going and where you've been, but not in a way to where you blame or you victimize or you be the villain in your own life. And so that it takes away your joy. Like Brandy was saying, she does, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brandy, You don't make your husband happy because you're trying to make him happy. You make your husband happy because that's what makes you happy. And there's a fine line in between those things. We need to know what truly makes us happy, not because it's an obligation, but because it gives you joy. And you have to know what that feels like for you. And I'm getting back to that, and it feels so good.
I love that. And at the end of the day, my husband has to choose to be happy. I just create an environment that he can easily be happy in.
Yeah, and I was
sometimes you just want to be in a funky mood, and that's fine too. Just keep it to yourself.
Right. And I was gonna say, in church on Sunday, the pastor said, you know, your joy is your job, not anybody else's, right?
That's very true.
Dr. Antoinette Marie, I saw your face down there. So I'm
Carrie, don't come up on here trying to no preach word right on tonight, because I don't
get my church thing. Right.
With the face and everything. But you know what I think is so also important is, you know, that interdiscipline. It's almost like interdependence. And what I mean by that is, like, I can have a healthy relationship, but also still keep and knowing who I am. Right? Because sometimes whenever we are in, not even just romantic relationships, we lose our own autonomy. It's almost like we give so much to the relationship that we forget about, or we don't prioritize our own self-love. And how, you know, self-love, when you have that, it should ensure that you are prioritizing your own well-being. And sometimes when we get in relationships, it's all about that person, because we say, oh, when I'm with that person, they make me feel like this. They make me feel like this. And we give so much to that. But we should be also prioritizing our own personal, you know, well-being, our own personal fulfillment, right? And then in return, I think that it has the capability of enhancing that relationship that you have. I know so many women and men, when they get into relationships, and not just, you know, a romantic relationship, that they really forget about themselves. They're so in tune, almost infatuated with the relationship, and don't focus on, do I really want to be in this? And why am I in this? And what is it that I'm doing that making this other person want to stay in it? But what are you doing for yourself? So you can be with somebody. My husband and I love that man. Love him, yummy, all that. But I am still Antoinette Marie.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of times what we do is that we say, you know, the two shall become one flesh. I get the quote. However, I'm not going to put myself and negotiate what I believe and who I am to quote, as people say, to make you happy. If what I'm doing, like what Brandy was saying, listen, I can create, you buy me a house, I can make it to be a home, but you still have to bring something to that. It's not just me. It's not just, you know, they're gonna go and work or whatever it is outside of the home, and then I have to do all these things. You have to work together to have a systematic duality in a relationship, and you can't just put yourself on the wayside.
Yeah. And now I have a question, and this is this is the single lady notes, right? Because is there a time, right? Because, you know, I feel myself, okay? But is there a time where you feel like maybe there's too much of that push of, you know, I am this, I am that, I am, because Brandy talked about balance. Do you feel like, because I know in the past, I have always been that person that is like, oh, heck no. Everything is no. Every time you do something, it's a no, no, no. But in order for you to be in a relationship with someone, there has to be that balance of, I don't even want to say compromise, just where you come to a certain level of, you know.
I think that's more of a level of respect, because I don't think that on things that I enjoy, I don't think I should have to compromise those things for another human being. I think that before people get into any type of relationship, I think that there needs to be understanding. I think that there first needs to be self-reflection. Like, what is it that you really like and enjoy? Not what is it that I like or enjoy because I'm with this person.
You
so
hit the nail on the head with understanding.
So I think, I don't have a problem with, and I think there has to be a level of respect too. Because if I respect me, you're going to respect me. If I don't respect myself, you're going to treat me like somebody that you're not going to respect.
Well, there's three things I believe in. If you don't have self-love, self-respect, or self-trust, you can't expect or give those things.
Because a lot of times people have these things and they're like, in a relationship, I want this. They make a list. I want this. He or she has, well, let's say he has to be 6'2", or she got to be 5'3", and so on and so forth. Well, I said to somebody, get that list, look at it with yourself, and are you providing those things? Can you provide those things?
Yeah. Because
a lot of times we're always looking for other people to do something for us, make us happy, make us feel good, give me joy, No, what are you doing? That's why I said this, for us to be self-aware of who we are first. And what is it that you really, truly like? Some of us all our lives have been pretenders. And then when we come into these relationships, you're like, I really need to, concentrate on myself. Well, you 50. It's never too late. It's never too late. Yeah. But let's stop pretending when we get into this relationship.
Yeah, I have something to add to that. The compromise factor. I have compromised, but I compromise based on when would be a realistic time to do certain things. Like, I love the outdoors. My husband, he ain't going camping. So I just waited till we were in a position that if I want to go camping, I got good friends in Colorado that if I want to go out there for a weekend and we go camping, we can do that. But had to be in a financial situation that was realistic to do without breaking the bank or shifting things that would make things uncomfortable at home base. And that was my compromise. Wait until it's reasonable.
Right.
And to me, when I like what she said. No, go ahead, Shima.
No, I was just piggybacking that comment. That's why I like when you said it's not so much compromise, it's understanding. You understand that he's not going to go with you. He doesn't like it. You don't want to be mad with him because he won't go. And you don't want to lose the love of it because he doesn't go or want to go. But you found a way that it doesn't inconvenience him and it gives you the joy that you're looking for. It's an understanding. It's a level of understanding, understanding who you are and who you're with.
Yes. That part.
That is. I want you to be everywhere I go. If I go to the grocery store, I want you to, because I don't have anyone else to say that now. Go with me to the store. Go with me to the mall. Go with me here. Now, realistically, I don't even want to go to the store. Now I want to make this man go to the store with me, because I think in my mind, we should be doing things together. Please stay home so I can get 2 things out the store and come out in 12 seconds.
that part.
Right. So understand that.
Like, I would love to have him come to the store and other places all the time. But at the same time, I know he has anxiety. I'm not going to put him through that.
Right. Because you think about something like that, then he's going to drive you crazy. And like, it's just not going to work.
And we're going to be in the store longer. Right.
Yeah. And that's
really going to be y'all.
You're not going to enjoy the experience, right? If it's something that he doesn't like. So why create this, just get the bags out the car when I come home.
And I see that as love.
Right.
That's love.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. So I want to ask you another question here. I want to know if you could share any personal experience or moment where you felt like you deeply understood the nature of love.
I can go.
Go.
So when I got with my husband, It was there was a former situation in which I had a crazy ass ex that actually was the reason why I ended up here in Virginia in the first place. So when he said I love you, what he meant was I own you. But when Mr. Johnson said I love you, what he meant was I will love, protect, and kill for you. When I understood the difference, I let go of the trauma from that situation and knew that it was time to let it go and move forward. And that's what a lot of women need to do. They hold on to things that don't allow them to fully be present in a new relationship, and sometimes ruin an excellent or potentially excellent relationship based on what somebody else has done.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good stuff, Brandy. Yeah. It seems like the ladies are, thinking of this. Yeah. Like,
yeah. I think that's, it's
deep.
It's beautiful. I think that is beautiful. I think I can recall where, my husband is a military veteran and very openly will say he suffers. He's walking through, come on in the room, post-traumatic stress disorder. And I recall one time we were in a conversation and I could tell he was trying so much, like to not to have something to escalate. And so I said to him, let's stop. Because if you know about post-traumatic stress disorder, you can't just, for some people, you can't just like clap your hands and then all of a sudden they come down. That ain't how that works. And so I said to him, let's just stop. And when I saw his face, this is true. When I saw his face, in my mind, I saw what God must look like. Because for him to have that much patience trying to help me to understand post-traumatic stress disorder, you got to have, and as he's going through, people say like an episode. And so for that, I knew within my heart, and I said to him, I love you for no other reason than you just being who you are. There's nothing else that he can do to quote, and I don't like this term, but to make me love him. You can't make somebody, first of all, you can't make somebody love you. Either they do or they don't.
Right.
And so for me, that was my example of seeing someone that really had respect, honor, was disciplined, understood what family life really is. And it's just us. It's me, my husband, and a golden doodle. But that's our family. That's our family at home. And being able to say to him, there's nothing else that you need to do. You don't have to work harder. You don't have to buy me no more hokas. You don't have to do nothing. I get it. And I think that when it comes to really in-depth romantic relationships, sometimes we got to just step back a little bit. I love everybody that's on here. There's nothing else that anybody can do to make me love you even more. I love you just because that's who you are. And so we got to stop putting all these things. Well, I stop trying to make people love you.
Yeah,
that's a word for somebody. I felt that in my whole spirit. Stop trying to make people love us. We need to start loving ourselves. And the way that we love ourselves and we show and demonstrate that, then other people will show you how they love you. But if you don't love yourself, how can you love anybody else? How can you show love? You cannot.
Ding, ding.
Love is an action. You have to demonstrate that.
Yes.
That's a whole word right there. Carrie, you said you're on mute. That's a whole word.
I want to say something else real quick too. For all the people throughout the land, the world that say Black women can't get along, watch this shit.
Look at this right here. Right here. This is love too. And I want to give everybody an opportunity to answer that question, but we're going to talk about that too. Because that's a different type of love than what we're talking about when it comes to significant others and those type of more intimate relationships. And not that we can't have intimacy amongst the ladies, because we can, right? But we're going to get into that, Brandy. So thank you for making that point as well. But I want to give everybody an opportunity to answer about when they recognized that they really understood the nature of love. Carrie, were you going to say something? You're on mute for some reason. We can't hear you. Why don't you try going out and coming back in, and then we'll get Carrie when she comes back in. So did anybody want to address that question? Anybody else?
I don't know. That question was hard for me. Not that I don't know when. I feel like I've loved hard my whole life. Mm-hmm. Family, friends, men. And I know how it felt to give it. Always knew how I felt to get it and give it. I always knew how I felt to get it from friends and family. Always felt protected. Always felt nurtured. Always felt wanted. I think for me, it gave me so much. I don't want to say a false idea of what love is, but it gave me, it kind of clouded my sight to think that is all that's out there. So when I go looking to find it in other places, it's going to be there just like this. I'm going to feel loved and warm and welcomed and safe. And when it didn't, I was like, wow, what is wrong? Yeah. And almost felt like, what did I do wrong? Mm-hmm. But what the learning curve, when the learning curve came in, was when I realized you don't have to stop being the loved one. Everybody just can't love like that, or don't want to, or don't know.
That brings us much.
It made me decide that I'm going to continue to love hard, even after breakups, after love doesn't show me the return, after heartbreak or heartfelt separations. I'm not gonna, I'm gonna cry today, I'm gonna cuss tomorrow, I'm gonna eat something, but I'm gonna start this all over again. And I'm gonna love as hard as I always did. Because what it says for me is I'm never gonna get the full effects of it if I only give part of it. So I'm still learning, but I definitely know that, like you said, it's an action and it's a giving verb. Yeah. It's a giving verb.
And I'm going to say something to that, just because we grew up the same way with the same family. And I definitely recognize that. And I have to say, just because of some of the things that happened in my childhood, I warded off love. I'll be honest, right? Because now I can look at myself and, like Dr. Antoinette Marie said, know myself, like really know myself. And I had to really come to grips with, why is it that I'm not in a relationship that works, right? Mm-hmm. But I had to look at myself, because it was like I wasn't really willing to be in one. Up until now, I'm going to be honest with you, I was not willing to be in one, because I had all of that family love and that friends love, and I knew how to give it out in that way. But because of what I saw between a man and a woman, I didn't know what it really looked like. Or what it was supposed to feel like. I just had the other sides of it. So I wasn't really open to it. So I love that you talk about that, because now I think about that too, like opening myself up to, just all that love has to give in a man-woman relationship now, that I was not open to up until very recently. I'm going to be really honest. Because I had to come to grips with that for myself. So thank you for mentioning that, because I was just like, I have enough. You know what I mean? I got enough. I get enough from my family. I get enough from my friends. I don't need it. You know what I mean? But that's not the case. I was fooling myself at that time, right? And I think Carrie and I were talking about this last week. I'm in such a place where, like, I'm so peaceful with me now, right? And thank God for this. But I'm at such a place of peace. It doesn't matter what relationships it is, and I'm talking about the intimate relationships, the family, the friends, the business, the me being a consultant. Like, I'm so at peace now. It's like I'm not out here trying to push for too much of anything, right? I'm going to continue to do because I love to do, but I'm not stressed out about it anymore. You know, like, I'm loving myself now. And so I thank you for that, because I had to come to grips with myself on what I was willing to engage in. And now it's like, okay, I'm ready, God, for whatever it is that you got for me. And I'm at peace no matter what happens on a day-to-day basis. So thank you for that, Shima. Carrie, I know you wanted to say something before you popped out.
I was actually saying, can y'all hear me? Can you hear me? But I was just thinking back too, because I have been married before and I've gone through a divorce. And I remember the moment when I knew that my marriage wasn't going to work. And I think that was also the defining moment when I really knew what true love was, because I really loved my wife. I truly, truly loved my wife, but I knew that I had to end our marriage because I knew for sure that she loved me more than she loved herself. And she always had, and I always knew it. And I knew that type of love would drown me and suffocate her, because she was completely always pouring into me. And I couldn't give love back to her fast enough for it to feel her, because she was constantly loving me more than she was loving herself in every aspect of the word. So it just, anything that I did with anyone else, it was as if I was taken away from her. Anything I did for myself, it was as if I was taken away from her. And it just wasn't true. But I couldn't change her perception of love because she built that on her own. It wasn't that definition was built before I ever came into the picture. And she never took that time to feel back into herself to even be able to pour into anyone else. So she was always going to look for me to fill her up, and I just couldn't keep up with it. So, yeah, go ahead.
That's a lot of responsibility. No, I was just going to say that's a lot of responsibility, right? Because that goes back to what we were just talking about. Like, Absolutely. Joy is your job, right? That's a lot. Mm-hmm. That's a lot to put on one person.
Yeah, absolutely. And it takes a lot too to admit that to yourself, that you are going to have to be the one to let go.
Yeah.
Right.
When you've been, trying to prove that love for 7 years, to say, I have to let go.
Yeah.
Right. That doesn't feel good to someone, especially someone that you've been saying and trying to prove your love to. To say, I love you enough to let you go. They don't.
Mm-hmm. No. But it's such a true statement. Yeah. And I think the action of it is so true, because you could have selfishly stayed in it at any moment. But
there wasn't nothing that I
either one of you, and you loved her enough because you want her to love the correct way, or should I say the healthier way?
Yeah.
And that would mean
beautiful. That type of love leads to resentment later on in life. So I commend that.
Yes, that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. To be able,
I have to say that's the mine is built on expectations. That's the part I had to learn. When you said, Tracy, you had to learn how to want to, love like that. I had to learn to remove so many expectations, because it was up here more than it was in here. So that was my learning curve, but that's what that was. That's what that is. It was
just change of mind. Stop expecting real life to be like a Tyler Perry movie.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm gonna go back to a sermon, and this is a sermon that came from a couple of different ministers who talked about it from different, like they worded it different, but it was the same thing. But do you feel like, your feelings can lie to you?
Oh,
it gets all hopped up on.
Sometimes logic needs to take over from your feelings. What do you guys think about that?
Absolutely. Because it also depends on what part of your body feels the most. Because some people, will turn you on so much that you will let go of what your head feels and what your heart feels because of what your libido feels. I've been there too. You know what I mean? It will. It's a falsification of love, because you feel so deeply and you feel so passionately for somebody that you're not rational about it.
And that's kind of a segue. Go ahead, Dr. Antoinette Marie, before we go into the next one.
No, I was just going to say, I do agree. I do agree that sometimes our feelings, if we don't truly understand what feelings are for, that they can overtake and override. But I also believe that now we have placed so much attention to this cliche word, the mindset, but that we forget about our feelings, that we forget that our feelings are important, that people say, trust your gut. And sometimes we forget to feel. Sometimes we can be so intellectually inclined that it's like, everything has to check a box and like, oh, okay, well, that person fits. But what does your spirit say? What does your heart say about a situation? And it kind of goes back to what Carrie is saying. Like, in her heart of hearts, she knew based on experiences that she was involved in, like, this is not going to be sustainable. So my only point to that is that I think and know that our feelings are just as important as our mindset. I think they're interconnected, and for us not to forget about these feelings that God, Most High Source, has also given to us, because Jesus wept too, and that's a feeling. So we can't just talk about mindset, so on and so forth. We got to go back. Sometimes we need to pull back from talking about mindset so much, because I can't really talk to you about a great and healthy mindset when my heart is broken.
Right.
Amen.
We got to talk about what happened. Tell me what happened, because it starts with your heart. It starts there, and then it works its way up. You can't go to the grocery store unless you feel like you're hungry, unless you see or experience you don't have no food inside of your refrigerator. Then your heart speaks to your brain, your neurons in your brain, and say, you need to go get some groceries. But we concentrate so much on that mindset, and we don't want to do that work, because emotions you got to dig in, and you got to do that work. It's easy to go and read something from a book. Your heart is still broken, but you can do everybody's quote, but you have a toxic life. You think toxic, but you can put it on. But we got to go back. This just me. This just me. TV 360. It's not. I'm just saying. I'm doing a lot of research, and we are just forgetting about our heart. But we CEOs and CFOs, and we broken. We take that out on everybody else at work.
You know what I was just thinking? There have been a few people that said, I think I should become a life coach, and their whole life is a mess. And my eye twitching. Just don't do that. don't do that to people.
Yeah, you got to be able to fix your own mess and even learn how to deal with the things that come up too, right? Because maybe you fix the past trauma, but there's always something that's going to come up that's going to make you feel a certain way, right? And you got to learn how to be able to navigate that in order to, I'm going to say, live healthy and whole, right? Because we're on the Whole Living Show. Yeah. So listen, we might need a part 2, y'all, because I didn't even touch on some of the things. Come on, man. I know there's so much that you could cover here, right? When you start to talk about love, because it is the essence of everything, right? But I want to kind of switch over, because Carrie had mentioned something about when we talked about the feelings versus the logic piece of it. And she talked about the lust part of it, right? And maybe I can say sex on TV is nighttime, right? The sexual part of this. But how do you differentiate between love and infatuations and other form of affection?
We all was like, ooh.
Yeah, I can speak for myself and myself only. I've always been one of those people that I've never let the will of my body override implications, the consequences of certain actions. So I've always been too logical to allow my libido to lead the way. Now that I'm married, that doesn't really matter. But before then, no, I would not allow, however passionate or passion-filled I was about a person or situation, guide me in the present without thinking about, okay, I could be stuck with this person for my whole life. I don't know who or where this person has been. And that's how my mind works.
Oh, Lord.
I love that.
I've been on both sides of that. How they say, baby? Sometimes. But I get it. But it's difficult when you're a passionate person. It is difficult sometimes to draw that line, but to break it down, it's just too much going on out here that you can be stuck with other than that person.
Right.
Make that decision. And I think that's the way I always led with it, because I have always been a passionate person, and being in the LGBT plus and all the other thing community, it's something that's very prevalent. Even though I don't necessarily think that it's something that's more rampant in the community, it is still something that's associated more so with that community. So I've been very cognizant of that my whole life, or at least my whole sexual life, that you just have to be so responsible when it comes to leading with your libido. You have to know someone. I ain't gonna say I've never had a one night stand, but it was a one night stand with someone that I knew beyond that one night.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's never been, and you just have to be very mature in that way. But when it comes to moving into beyond the lust into the like, it's really just looking at someone, for me, and just I stare at people a lot, whether it's a sexual attraction or not. But especially when it's someone that I'm thinking about going to a next phase with. And I'm gonna tell you, if you can start being annoyed by simple shit,
don't even go there, right?
I remember a specific person, and this has been years and years and years ago, way before my marriage. But I remember waking up one morning and looking at this young lady and thinking the back of her head was too flat. Now you don't love that girl. Because the back of her head should not like just silly stuff, because I remember when I was with a young lady. This is also before marriage, and I truly loved her. And I remember someone saying to me, "She doesn't seem like your type." And I remember being so confused by that statement, because I'm just like, you shouldn't. A type really doesn't matter when you connect with somebody. And if you genuinely have that connection and you find yourself with somebody who's not necessarily your norm, I think that's when I knew like where to start drawing that line, because it started showing me different things about people, and it started showing me things about myself that shouldn't even be on a checklist when it comes to a relationship. The back of their head being too flat should never show up on somebody's.
And well, I'm gonna say this too. We have to close this out, unfortunately, but your norm may have deceived you before. Right? And there's a reason why the norm didn't really work out. So you got to look at what your norm really was, right? Because that probably deceived you. But I hate that we're at the end of this show. We've got like 2 more minutes to close this out.
It happened so fast.
I know, it always does. Quick comments. Anything that you want to say about love before we close the show?
I would just say that, love involves you accepting and embracing yourself first.
Yeah.
That's it.
Amen.
That's it.
And to feedback off of that, exactly how you love yourself is going to spill over into how you love everybody else.
Amen.
That's it. That's it.
Anything else, ladies?
I don't know.
I would say change your expectations, especially if you're younger out here dating, because there are a lot of artificial things attracting people to one another.
Yes.
And you need to start looking at the person inside and out, and not just the exterior, because these lashes, extensions, and booty fillers is going to wear off one day. So you better look a little deeper.
You got to stand and sit next to that person after everything melts down.
Please.
That's a whole right there when you think about just to talk to the youth, right? About, really being able to love and appreciate themselves, like Dr. Antoinette Marie and Carrie said. But then also, like you're saying, Brandy, to really get to know people, right? Like everything is so much about social media and what you see and on social media and kids not having social skills, right? To be able to have down and communicate with people, to really get to know a person. That's a whole other show. We're gonna have to do something on that because that's important.
One last thing. Avoid those shit sandwiches.
No shit sandwiches. That's how we'll close. That's how we will close this out. We love you, everybody out there. Thank you for joining our conversation about love, and we will see you next week right here on the Whole Living Show. Take care.